What does it take to actually sound natural when you speak in American English? And what are the things that are maybe causing you to have an accent that perhaps people aren't actually telling you? Maybe you're getting feedback like, oh, we didn't understand you. And you ask why. And you're like, I don't know. Something just sounds weird or something just sounds off. Well, let's talk about what's actually happening to give you some solutions and some things to focus on for your own speech. Welcome, guys, to the Schwa Mill. This is our American English Pronunciation Review show held on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays, right around 7:30, 7:40 a.m. New York. We look at two pronunciation files that you guys send to us, and then we try to give as great feedback as we can to help you move forward. And when we say we, I mean me. Hi, my name is Geoff. It rhymes with breath. That's one of the four keys to a natural sound in American English pronunciation, including placement, pitch, breath, trying to weaken your consonant sounds in order to give more space to your vowel sounds. And today I have two more files that we're going to be taking a look at. I do want to give a quick shout out to everyone in our Schwa Mill Telegram group. That's where we're pulling the files from. We have a group on Telegram where people send in files. I select two of them for our stream. So if you would like to have the chance to have your own pronunciation reviewed in a future episode, I definitely encourage you to look at the video description for that link to that free group on Telegram. All right, let's take a listen to our very first file and see what's happening here.
I think it's one of the hardest ones to get right.
Okay, let's play it one more time.
I think it's one of the hardest ones to get right.
Okay, there's a strategy here that I really like and that I think is not done enough by people who have learned English, and that strategy is to incorporate repetition in our speech. When I say repetition, I'm talking about times when you're talking and you're trying to think of what's the word that you need to say. And I kind of gave some examples there. It's a very common strategy to keep your speech flowing while also giving you time to process and think about what you want to say next. And it's also, again, very natural sounding. Like, listen to the hardest, one of the hardest.
I think it's one of the hardest ones to get right.
A lot of times when we do these sorts of repetitions, there's a change that happens. So in this case, for instance, he starts off by saying the hardest, and then he goes lower in pitch and he adds a couple more words, right? The hardest, one of the hardest ones. The hardest, one of the hardest ones. So I like those two things that he added. So the first one higher in pitch, second one lower in pitch. The addition of different words, the pacing changes. It's like the first one's a little bit slower, second one's a little bit faster. So when we're doing these sorts of repetitions, these are things we can do. So like this. So see that the pitch change is there. Or like this. That's another common strategy where maybe the first one's really slow and then the second repetition's faster. Try to start listening for this when you're listening to native speakers talk. Try to shadow it when you hear people doing it. Try to make your own sentences. This is a nice way to replace also filler words like or like if you find that you're using a lot of those words. I just wanted to highlight that strategy. In terms of something to work on here, I'm going to play it again.
I think it's one of the hardest ones to get right.
Okay. A couple places where the placement goes pretty high. First, you can hear it in the word this. That TH is just dominating and kind of eating into your vowel. So the short I doesn't get a lot of space. And instead, we get a lot of friction on that TH. It almost turns into like a T sound.
I think it's one of the...
Like I think, versus I think. There's so many different ways to pronounce the TH. Okay, when we talk about this on the channel. If you look at our playlist, we actually have a playlist called the 3-Day TH Challenge. Okay, which is just talking about THs in a lot of different contexts. But the central thing with the TH is I really recommend, one, do not put your tongue between your teeth. So if you're watching on YouTube, then it's not like, you don't need to do that for a TH. You can, but the downside is it can be difficult to transition to other sounds. Instead, what I really recommend is having the tip of your tongue touch either your top tooth or your bottom tooth in the front. Okay, so like, that's my tongue high, or that's my tongue low. Either of those positions might make your TH a little bit easier to pronounce and smooth out. The other thing is that I know the TH gets a lot of attention because, let's be honest, most languages in the world do not have a TH sound. American English does. And so when we learn it, we often kind of exaggerate it. But the reality is, when we actually hear native speakers talk, we're going to see that this TH sound actually tends to be pretty light, weak, and fast. So if I say the word this, the important part isn't really the TH. The important part is really that vowel is. So it may be helpful to kind of alternate a little bit, like this. We don't need to do like this. See how much heavier that becomes. So we don't need that. So that's kind of something I'd be watching out for there. Watching out for that th sound. All right, I want to move on to our next pronunciation file. But again, thank you once more to all of our members who sent in pronunciation files. It's hard to do a review show if you don't have things to review. So thanks once more. Let's listen to our second file.
We can watch something else. Iron Man, Spider-Man, Homecoming. I heard plenty of good reviews about that.
Okay, play it one more time.
We can watch something else. Iron Man, Spider-Man, Homecoming. I heard plenty of good reviews about that.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about this file. Thank you for sending it. And Lisa says, "Hi Geoff, what do you think of that clip I shared with the speaker said? Idea. Is it this clip? I don't know if it's this clip I'm working on right now or not. But this is the one I have right now, and it's the one I listen to, so it's the one I can give the best feedback on. What I really like about this file in particular is the softness. So there's a concept of contrast that I call firmness. Firmness is like this. Right now I'm talking firm, and then softness is like this. Right now I'm talking soft. Firm, soft. Okay. It's not exactly the same thing as like shouting versus whispering. It's not exactly the same thing because that's more volume related. This has to do more with the firmness, the strength of the sound. It's less about volume. And so this is a case where we have a lot of softness.
We can watch something else. Iron Man, Spider-Man, Homecoming.
Because if that were going to sound firm, it'd be like, we can watch something else. Spider-Man, Iron Man, like it would sound kind of like that. But this is a lot softer, right? We can watch something else, you know. So what it does is it adds a greater amount of breath into everything. What's up to Tataki hanging out with us in the chat? Good to see you again. Missed you. So we're playing around with softness versus firmness. So I like that because a lot of our first languages tend to be pretty firm. Okay, if you speak a lot of Romance languages, speaking Slavic languages, Arabic, Mandarin, these are languages that tend to be pretty firm on the sound. In American English, we're instead, there's a lot of softening. There's a lot of transitions from firm to soft, firm to soft, firm to soft. Hello also to David hanging out with us too. So I like the amount of softness here. Let's play it
We
again.
can watch something else. Iron Man, Spider-Man, Homecoming. I heard plenty of good reviews about that.
Okay, there are a couple things that slightly took me off guard. I'm looking, for instance, at the mans on Spider-Man and Iron Man.
We can watch something else. Iron Man, Spider-Man, Homecoming. I heard.
Okay. So for these like superheroes like Batman, Iron Man, Superman, Spider-Man, like the man is your reduced syllables, really, really weak. And sometimes I feel like the man's coming off a little bit heavy. Especially like what's the full Spider-Man movie title?
We can watch something else. Iron Man, Spider-Man, Homecoming. I heard plenty of good reviews about that.
Spider-Man Homecoming. Okay, so Spider-Man Homecoming. So because the stress is going to be on Homecoming. So like the way we said that was like Spider-Man Homecoming. So the rhythm there was a little bit different, which, you know, maybe we're thinking of the movie title and then it's like, oh yeah, there's a Homecoming too, so we add it. So, you know, in the right context, I think it could work. But in general, you're going to hear it pronounced more like Spider-Man Homecoming. Spider-Man Homecoming. So you're going to see the Spider-Man reduced a bit more. I also want to take a look at the very end of this file.
We can watch something else. Iron Man, Spider-Man, Homecoming. I heard plenty of good reviews about that.
There's this transition from Spider-Man: Homecoming to I heard plenty of good reviews, where the very first time I listened to this file, it took me a second to understand. And I think like in an actual conversation, I would have been fine and maybe not even noticed. But there's also a chance that I may have needed you to repeat it. And the reason is that I think our pitch transition from Homecoming to the last part, we kind of got stuck at like around the same note.
We can watch something else. Iron Man, Spider Man, Homecoming. I heard plenty of good reviews about.
Like Homecoming, I heard plenty of like we got kind of stuck at like this like pitch that just kind of kept repeating over and over again. And from a listener's perspective, that lack of contrast kind of caused things to jumble together a little bit. If maybe there was like a drop in pitch, it's like Spider-Man: Homecoming, I heard like that would have been helpful. I heard plenty of good reviews. Spider-Man: Homecoming, I heard plenty of good reviews about that. Or higher, Spider-Man: Homecoming, I heard like plenty of good reviews about that. Like something like that. Some sort of pitch change would have kind of created more separation, made it a little bit easier for me to get that. Um, David mentioned uptalking. We talked about uptalking in a previous stream with a lot of rising intonation. I wouldn't consider this uptalking myself, like I mentioned in class, David. Like uptalking a lot of times is context dependent, and it's the use of especially rising intonation in places where you wouldn't expect it. And I think there's enough variety around this to not feel like uptalk to me. And when the rising intonation is used, so especially for instance in that list situation, that's a that is a location where there tends to be a lot of rising intonation naturally.
We can watch something else. Iron Man, Spider Man, Homecoming. I heard plenty of good reviews about that.
Like, I think it's also trying to understand the function of the rising intonation. That first, like we can watch something else.
We can watch something else.
Like that, I wouldn't call that like uptalk necessarily. That's the wavering intonation. That's why do people talk like that? Like we can watch something else. We can watch something else. What that is doing is it's softening. So wavering intonation is used a lot. It has a lot of social linguistic purposes, right? It's used a lot to soften something. Like if I say like no, that sounds very firm. If like no, like that change that softens it and it shows some hesitation. So it's a way of saying that hey, like it's not like a big deal in this case with the we can watch something else, like it's okay. Versus if I say we can watch something else, that sounds firm. Now I'm adding some attitude towards that, and that might not be what I want. So I didn't personally get uptalk from this file myself. Uptalk would be more like this, where everything I say almost sounds like a question, like this, and this isn't quite what I get from that audio file. Okay. And they were saying for that waiver / rise, but at the same time shows hesitation. It can. It can show that hey, I'm trying. Again, so much of this is context dependent, but one of the things can be like, hey, I'm trying to work with you, but I don't know exactly what you want. Like maybe I'm talking to like a kid, like we're trying to like a 5-year-old. And I don't know if you guys have interactions with 5-year-olds, but like they're sometimes indecisive, and it's like you offer something and they're like no, and then like if you're the parent, like okay, well we can try something else, we can do this or this, you know, without trying to show that you're upset. You're trying to speak softer to them, just as an example. Tataki mentioned up talking sounds a lot like LA. Yes, it is a feature of Valley Girl accents, which traditionally found in California. It's a feature more common among female speakers, though not only. Yeah. All right, but again, thank you to everyone who sent us files. As always, it's hard to do a review show if you don't have files to review. So once more, if you'd like to have your own pronunciation reviewed on the stream, you can go to the video description and join the free Telegram group. But if you're like, hey, I don't want to wait Monday, Tuesday, or Friday, and then Geoff is only picking 2 files, and I'll pick every file I receive. I want to get feedback every day, ideally within 24 hours. And if that sounds like something you're interested in, you'd like to get feedback for your pronunciation every single day on these sorts of things that we're talking about in this stream in our classes, you may enjoy our Telegram group. If you go to fluentamerican.com/Telegram, you can see it down here on this little ticker. What generally happens? You have a question about pronunciation, you want to sound better quickly, and you want to get some feedback in a very short amount of time, because I'm usually responding to you in about 24 hours. That's what the group is for. We give feedback every single day of the week. It's me and my assistant. So if you're trying to, prepare for a meeting, prepare for a presentation, you're just out and about and you encounter something and you're like, how do you say this? Or you want to work on a daily challenge I send you, the full Telegram group might be something that you find helpful. And you can find more information about that at fluentamerican.com/Telegram. All right, with that, thank you guys for hanging out with me. Look, there's a lot of pronunciation resources out there, so the fact that you spent some time here with me is appreciated. I hope you guys have a good day, have a good night, have a good afternoon. We'll be back on Friday again at 7:30 with another episode of The Schwa Mill. Take care, guys. Bye.